everybody. Welcome to this edition of Closing Out the Week with the Closers Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Marco Alvarado. And we are in December. This is the first closing out the week of December. This isn't the first full week of December, but this is the first, week in this year that features days that are in December, which is cool. I always kind of have a weird feeling whenever December rolls around, because historically, historically, the winter months are when bad things generally happen to me. Life gets pretty rough around this time of year. I know that's just a very common thing, but I just mean personally, there's things that happen every year that just, it seems like it always falls around the holidays and it makes things more difficult, every year it seems that way. And I'm not going to go down the list of my whole life and name every event that happened, but just take my word for it. Trust me. Okay. That's how my life has kind of been, but this year is different in a lot of different ways. And I know many people can relate to that, but this year is very different because in the spring and summer is when things got pretty tough. And like I've said, that's not just me, but I can only reflect on the intricacies of my life because that's the life that I live. So that's why I'm talking about mine. And it's interesting because I feel like because this year has been so difficult, and was so difficult in the spring and the summer, that now, in the fall and winter months, it's just been kind of relatively chill. And I'm not used to that. I always am used to bracing myself for some sort of crazy mishap to happen, which I guess, if you listen to last week's episode, I had a really weird, incident with my car that I had to fix and stuff. Go check out that episode 23 of season 2 of Closing Out the Week if you're interested in hearing more about that situation. But everything's fixed now. I mean, everything's fine with that situation, and that's a pretty minor occurrence in someone's lifetime. A broken window, a broken mirror on a car, that's pretty easy to fix compared to I don't know, losing somebody or losing a pet or, those sort of permanent things. Those are harder to kind of get over. And those are the things that I kind of have experienced this year and in the years preceding, during winter and fall. But this year's different, man. And it's a weird feeling. It's I feel like I shouldn't be okay. I should be kind of nervous and anxious, and I should be kind of anticipating something to go wrong because that's just been the trend. But this year I'm kind of trying to make the best of everything, trying to make sure that I have as good of a time with my family as I kind of can, while also taking time for myself and trying to work on music and stuff. Speaking of music, next week, I am actually going to be conducting a little bit of an interview with a Closers Podcast favorite guest. Brianna Carmel is going to be on this show with me. We're just going to talk really briefly about her band, Blooming Heads, and her their new album or EP. That's coming out in January. Since this show is not going to exist then, I figured she could come on here. We already have the schedule for the Closers Podcast for this month, so we didn't have room to kind of fit her in on that show. But I offered for her to come on and do a little 10-minute, 15-minute interview on here. So that's what we're doing next week. But today, I mean, what I'm just going to kind of want to talk about is my music. I know I talked about music a couple weeks ago, just my love of music, how I started and everything, but kind of more just the music landscape nowadays. It's really weird. how there are these things called Spotify Wrapped, right? Like a Wrapped thing. And normal Spotify users have it, so it breaks down who you listened to throughout the year. And then they have it for podcasts, and they have it also for artists to see your stats during the year, to see how you performed during the year. And it's an interesting concept because you're able to measure yourself against other people who you think you're kind of on the same level at. You know, you feel like you're on the same level with certain people that are your friends, and then you see their stats and they're just like astronomically different than yours. Like they have so many more listeners and you just don't. I'm definitely speaking about me specifically. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. Like, I mean, I'm happy for you and everything, but it's like, wow, there's stuff I have to do to kind of get my game up, you know? It's definitely has put me on notice as a musician, and especially one that has had to kind of embrace the online space this year, as we all have. But it's made it a little difficult because, like, I don't know, this year has been really tough, as I've mentioned previously. And because of that, it's kind of like all these situations that have arisen have made it difficult for me to really focus solely on music and pushing my downer and dreary eyes stuff forward, because emotionally, like, the effort that I have to put into those projects is all consuming. And when I'm working on the podcast, when I'm doing the internship, when I'm doing schoolwork, that all takes effort as well. And then I barely have anything left for the music. So in part, that's kind of why I'm like stepping away from the Closers podcast, because I want to focus more on that. But it's interesting when it comes to like online music tactics and getting yourself more recognized. This is where the rubber kind of meets the road, because I am not the type of person that likes to put myself out there all the time. But that's what you have to do. You have to constantly be promoting yourself and shamelessly plugging yourself at every corner, anywhere you can, in order to just get a couple more people to listen to your music or check out your Instagram page or whatever it is. And that for me is pretty difficult, because you don't want to, I hate feeling like I'm annoying people. I hate feeling like I am a nuisance. That is one of my biggest fears, is being annoying and losing people, losing followers, I guess, on my music accounts because I post too often, or because I am too redundant. But those are ideas that I have to kind of get away from, because the most listened to people post pretty frequently. That's what they do. And also, just because you post very frequently doesn't mean that all of your followers see every single post. And it doesn't mean that they don't want to see every single post. Like, all of these thoughts of like, oh, I don't want to annoy, I don't want to be this, I don't want to, you know, those are killers, man. Those things are like concepts that I tell myself, because it's a very scary thing putting yourself out there, especially when it comes to music. Because if you're like me and you're a musician or artist or any creative, in any creative field, like, you put your heart and your soul into what you do, and showcasing it to people that you do know, and people that you will consider that are your fans. Like, you want them to like it, and it can be a little nerve-wracking when you put something out and you don't get a lot of responses. So it makes you think, okay, nobody really likes what I do, so I'm just going to retract. And that way of thinking is a little flawed, because you actually have to keep pushing forward through that. And that's what's really difficult for me, because Instagram is a very, very, very diluted place. It's very hard to stand out on there. And to stand out, you have to constantly just put stuff out. You have to throw shit on the wall until something sticks. But people are very I have to stop saying people. I have to talk about myself. I am very, very aware when it comes to perception, and very aware when it comes to like branding and the mood and the overall image that I want to portray myself as. And for me, it feels weird when I'm constantly posting about myself, because that's kind of not what I want to do. Like, I kind of want it to be a thing where the music kind of speaks for itself, but unfortunately that's not the world we live in. I have to get over that. And it's difficult too, because I realize that a lot of people have others that they work with, like a team. A lot of people have a team that they work with, to do their marketing, to do their photography, to do their graphic design, to do their music production when it comes to recording, mixing, mastering, all that stuff. I don't have a team. I do everything on my own. And that's something that I, going into this next year, definitely want to change. I need to trust more. I need to be able to allow other people to see my vision and help me achieve it. Because I can't keep being the only person working on my project, on Downer. I can't do that, especially like when it comes to music. Okay, maybe, but when it comes to like taking pictures, when it comes to posting on social media, when it comes to running promotions, when it comes to digital advertisements, all these areas that I have knowledge in, but just I don't have the time, because like, if I'm focusing on recording and I'm really trying to focus on just recording, but then I'm like, man, I haven't posted anything on Instagram in a long time. I need to keep people engaged. And then I run and start doing that. And then I try to do recording again. And I'm like, I'm tired. I'm exhausted, because I don't know about you, but if you post on social media a lot, you post on Instagram a lot, those things take time. It's not a quick thing. Like a lot of people think, oh, I just open up the app, I pick a picture, and then I type a caption and boom. No, you have to make it engaging. You have to write things out. And I like to put a lot of thought into those in every step to make it feel very authentic. I want it to feel authentic. Authenticity is key for me personally. So after putting all that effort into making whatever post authentic, then I run into the issue of not having enough like energy to continue recording. So it's a very, 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 very tricky thing for me. But I do have some plans in the future when it comes to like strategy, like music strategy and like music marketing strategy, which I'm learning some things from the internship that I'm taking a part in, which is really cool. But yeah, like I'm learning some strategies. I'm going to incorporate some things going forward, but the music is the product. The music is the cornerstone of what you do. You know, if you're a musician and you don't have music, it's very hard to kind of get a following, or it's hard to like get a niche in like whatever subgenre you're trying to drop music under. It's hard to carve out your space when you don't have music, because people need to know like, okay, what do you sound like? Will I like you sonically or will I not? And that's what's interesting, is because I've put out things, and everything that I'm doing now, everything that the sound that I'm crafting now for Downer is pretty different from the original things that I put out back in 2019. So going forward, it's going to be very interesting seeing the reception. But, you know, I did go through a phase seeing other people's Spotify Wrapped numbers where I just kind of got down on myself. I'm like, bro, you haven't done anything. Like, you really haven't done anything. And all of these people who have started their projects later than you, more recently, have numbers way, way, way bigger than you. But that's the thing, of course. And now I'm out of that phase. I know it's not good to think that way, but it's hard. Sometimes you just can't help it. You get down on yourself. And numbers are just numbers, right? It doesn't mean that your music's better. It doesn't mean anything other than more people have listened to them. But those are important, those are things that are important. And I want to use that as fuel to push me forward instead of using it as ammunition to shoot myself in the foot and to beat myself up over it, So I don't know. I guess my final message for this podcast specifically is just, if you are feeling down about not really doing a lot this year, feeling like you haven't achieved your potential this year, there was a lot of things you wanted to do that were still in your control, even during the pandemic, and you just weren't able to get anything done to the ability that you could have. I just want to be the one to tell you that it's okay, and that next year, hopefully things will be different. I can't predict the future, but I'm feeling like things will be different in certain ways. And like there is something to just seeing a new number on the calendar when the 0 turns into a 1, feeling like there's some new beginning. Mentally, that does help some people. And for me, I am that way. So it will help me. And I hope that you are that type of person as well. And if not, just know that there is always time, and you will, if you really want it, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, you will accomplish it. But just like with college, everybody has a different path. Some people get to the destination faster than others. And just keep pushing it and keep trying to figure out new and different ways to achieve what you're trying to achieve. It may take you longer than most, but that's okay, because you will get there at some point. And everyone's version of success looks different. So as long as you keep in mind exactly what you want to accomplish, your disappointment will never be permanent. So with that has been this episode of Closing Out the Week with the Closers Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Marco Alvarado. And next week, we have our guest for the Closers Podcast, Terrell Tucker. Big Ham himself is going to come back on one last time. It's always a good time. Terrell always brings it. So definitely stay tuned for that. It's going to be out on Wednesday. Quinn will hit you on Monday with Hang 10. And we'll see what he talks about. I can imagine it's going to be something very entertaining. So stay tuned for that. All right, guys. Hope you have a great weekend. Stay up and stay alive. All right. Take care.